Okay, we welcome you to Martinsville Speedway. We'll open up this weekend's media availabilities with the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series points leader, Parker Klingerman. Parker, you have two top 10s to open this season, and last time you were at Martinsville was back in 2012 in the Truck Series, but it was another top 10 finish, finished ninth in 2012. So great start to the season. We're back racing finally. How do you feel about this weekend?
I didn't know I finished ninth. That's pretty sweet. Thanks. I had no idea I had a top 10 here. It doesn't feel like that. But, after the long break, it's good to get here. Just sang too much karaoke over the last 4 weeks, ready to get in a race car. But I'd say, the coolest thing about returning here is that the last time I was actually here was the Cup race in 2014, and we had that horrible first lap melee, and we got caught up and stuck on the curb, and it was like the worst experience ever. So I'm excited to get back here. The team who's been successful. I was watching this race from last year on YouTube, and David Gillen, who was driving our truck, was actually in the top 5 at the beginning of the race. So I'm excited to get here with a team that's been successful. Maybe can teach me a thing or two and get out there and run up front.
Great. Thank you, Parker. Questions? We'll start with Jeff over here in the front. Please state your name and affiliation.
Jeff Clark from USA Today. Parker, you've had such an up and down roller coaster career at times, and I'm sure last year at this time you wouldn't have thought that you'd be here as truck points leader and all that things like that. How do you manage all these career highs and lows?
I think the best way to put it is that first of all, thanks for the question. Second of all, I think you definitely enjoy the highs. The lows are going to come, and no climb up a mountain straight up, right? But I think one of the biggest things, and I talked about this in a lot of interviews we did over the last couple of weeks, which we've milked that points lead as much as possible, right? But I'd say the biggest thing is that a lot of times when you're coming up through the ranks, you're so focused on what's next, and so focused on climbing the ranks, and so focused on getting that next ride and the next opportunity and this and that, and you almost put so much pressure to be successful and to not fail, and you can't fail. And then when you do, and you ultimately fail, right, as I did in 2014 pretty publicly, then suddenly you realize it's not fatal, right? Suddenly you don't turn around and you're dead because you failed. You're still here. You're still kicking. And then you start to creep back up. You start to change your mindset into saying, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy this, kind of live in the moment a little bit, enjoy when you have those highs, kind of live in them. When you have the lows, it's going to turn around. And it helps change your perspective as a driver, as a person. All that adds up to saying, okay, now I can move forward with anything that comes my way, whether it works out or doesn't. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yes, sir, in the front here.
I had to run to get here, so our hauler wasn't open till like 8:48, and I'm missing a bunch of stuff, so I'm really hot right now, but sorry.
Matthew Schwartz, Martinsville Bulletin. I was going to ask you, from your work on the TV side, has that given you any new perspective or any new plan of attack approach when you come to the racetrack?
I wouldn't say it gives you a different approach. I think it definitely gives you a different perspective, when you step outside the sport from being in the pit, being the focal point of the sport, being in the driver's position, and then you go to the outside where now you're simply a commentator on it. You're analyzing it from a whole nother perspective. That changes the way that when you come back in, suddenly you kind of understand that portion of it, right? I think one of the biggest things is kind of understanding why, times when you're a young driver, you weren't getting coverage, or you weren't getting what you wanted out of the sport, right? And then you kind of take yourself out of it, and suddenly you see like, oh, that's what I looked like. Oh, that's what I was doing. And then you realize, oh, I could have been doing this, and it's totally different. So I'd say it just gives you an overall different perspective of the sport from a higher position than you would when you're just in it, when you're in the minutia. You're just caught up in it all the time.
Right here in the back. We'll go here and then to you.
Tucker White, SpeedwayMedia.com. Back here.
Oh, there you are.
You entered this season with your team entered this season on a limited schedule. Now, given the fact that you're the points leader, has that helped you secure any sponsorships since Atlanta?
I got to talk to my owner about it. I don't know if we've gained any more cubic dollars, but we've definitely gained more support from our current sponsors. Valvoline, Advanced Auto Parts, Black's Tire Service. Giving them that press, giving them that coverage for 4 weeks, being the points leader helps so much. I don't think it's like you get there and then suddenly everyone's like, oh, take my money. go race. It's, you still have to work with them. You still have to prove the ROI, prove what you're trying to put out on the racetrack, that you have a good product. And we've got to continue proving that. But it definitely, within the team, it gives you so much positivity, so much, so many reasons to find a way to continue. And that's why we're doing the first 6, and then we'll go from there.
Barry Richmond, Piedmont Broadcasting Corporation. I realize this is the 3rd race of the Camping World Truck Series season, but with the implementation of the chase format, in the buzz in the garage area, is the intensity that much more as far as being able to get the win, to do what's necessary to position yourself for the end of the season? And in your case, if you all are definitely a contender for the championship.
I think it is a huge difference because it's big for especially smaller teams that if you were able to get a win, like look at John Hunter and Nemechek, that's a team that is a smaller team, without major backing on the truck. They went out and got a win in Atlanta. So now they've got to find a way to continue, right? Because they're in the chase. They have a chance to go win a championship now. They can say to anyone that wants to go on that truck, hey, come, I can't remember what the first race is, but whatever that first race is, we're going to have a chance to fight for a championship. We'll be in that discussion throughout the year. And I think that's what really changes something. Instead of, a lot of times in our sport, talking about the 6th place guy was tough, right? Especially in trucks, the 7th place guy. And now we have a reason to talk throughout the field, throughout the top 10, about the people that are there, about the drivers, about the teams, about their sponsors, about what they're accomplishing. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize with the chase is, yes, it's maybe a great thing for the fans to see something that's more exciting, but it also brings a reason for you, the media, to cover someone back there and to give a reason to why to care, right? Why care that this car is doing this truck's doing that? And that's a huge thing for the small teams. We see it in the Xfinity Series where right now we're talking about guys who are 12th, 13th, and 14th in points on national television. Why? Because there's a chase situation now, so now we have a reason to do it, and I think that's a big point.
Right here, and then we'll go Chris.
Zach Catanza with a fun stretch to your left, I guess.
Hey.
You mentioned that David Gillen had a good run in this truck last year. Scott Riggs had a top 5. So what does it mean for a small team to have a successful background at a racetrack?
I think anywhere you have success, it's just it can give you some sort of momentum. Definitely puts a lot of onus on me to kind of figure it out here. I've been to a short track since Martinsville in 2014, so it's been a while, a bit of a drought. I'm getting excited to go hit the brake in anger for the first time in a while, so that would be cool. But definitely puts a little bit of onus on me to kind of not screw it up, I guess, in a lot of ways, That's a big part of it. So we'll see if we can kind of replicate that same speed. That'd be exciting. If not, for us, a solid day, is top 10s. If we do that, we're going to continue, being in the position a good position, the points, and get to some tracks where I'm definitely more. I've had more success.
Chris
Knight, catchfence.com. Parker, what's the biggest difference that you've had to adjust at Ricky Benton Racing compared to someone like Red Horse Racing? And typically, Ricky Benton Racing doesn't go to Kansas Speedway. Do you guys have a set schedule moving forward?
So we first foremost we've decided to do the first 6. So we will be going to Kansas. And Dover and Charlotte. As for the difference between, say, a big team and small teams, one of the things I've talked about is that when you're on a bigger team, or when you're a young driver coming up and you haven't got to a big team yet, you can find times where you're worrying about so many things that aren't just the core basics of trying to run well, core basics of being fast, right? You start thinking about like all the ancillary stuff. You start to turn it into rocket science because you look at these big teams, you think, oh, they've got all that stuff, all this engineering, all these resources. What else do they have? What else can they do? And then when you get to a big team and you kind of see the, I guess, little things they do that make the huge difference between running 5th every weekend and running 1st and being 2/10 faster in the field, you then go back to a smaller team and realize that really at the end of the day, to run 5th or to be in position to win, you just need to do the core basics. And so the biggest thing for me is that coming back to a small team, you don't worry about all that other stuff because you've seen it and you know what it gets you. You know it when the funding's there and everything's solidified. You can focus on that stuff. But when you're at the smaller team, you focus on the core basics of what it means to run well, what it takes to run well, and I think then you can find success with those smaller teams when you do that. So it's definitely a transition, But and as a driver, there's a lot more to worry about on a smaller team. You don't have your interior guy, and you do everything yourself basically in that sense. The driver compartment, that's on you. That's your office. Whereas the bigger teams, it's all taken care of for you. So that's another little part, but I'd say that definitely it eases some things in your mind, because you just know that there's these core things you're going to do, and that's all you're going to do.
Does anyone have any other questions for Parker? Once, twice.
Oh,
one,
Nate.
What?
He was late anyways. I was late too, don't worry.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. I don't know if you already answered this, Parker, but obviously your team is looking for sponsorship, and there's been a lot of talk since Daytona that the Truck Series might be a more viable option than in years because of what you talked about, the exposure from the new chase, and with the fact that essentially, not that it's a spec series or great engines, but it seems like it's a lot more affordable in terms of that side of it. Have you guys noticed any uptick in sponsorship the last few weeks when the series has been off? Or?
No, I don't know directly. As I said, I haven't really spoke to my owner about it directly in that sense. I think we have a different sticker on the hood this week that I'm not sure what it was, but I got to look it up real quick. No, I think, just as I said before, just the publicity of being the points lead, all that stuff helps you, blah, blah. But definitely the Truck Series, what NASCAR is doing with a lot of things within the Truck Series, I think you'll see the budgets kind of naturally regress slightly. We'll see. I think there's a lot of, efforts throughout the sport to kind of try and contain them and bring them down in some respect, but that's all good stuff, because I think you're seeing smaller teams have the ability to succeed. One, because the Truck Series has done something really smart, and that's that the rules have been stagnant, for many years, essentially the same rules. And I think that's allowed a lot of that technology, a lot of that stuff to trickle down and really come across the board where no one can have a huge advantage because they have a lot of resources. Everything's kind of been through the sport, through the series. So that's helped a lot as well. So I think all that has kind of naturally made the Truck Series a little bit more viable at this time. Target budget? Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble if I get called that. It's, I think there should be a tiered. I'm not gonna go into specifics. If you look at what a K&N budget is, you should take that and maybe double it, and then from there you should double it for a Nation or Xfinity, and then Cup's in its own realm. But I think if you want to have viability and ROI and that sort of thing, that's where you got to try and get to, and I think we'll get there. I think the sport is making the right choices to do it.
Great. Anyone else? All right.
Thank you guys.
very much,
Appreciate it.
Parker.
Have a great weekend. Hopefully I see you here Saturday.